Hello. Uh, Today we will be doing a relatively brief yoga sequence designed to address the kinds of immobilities that we inhabit in our day to day lives, like sitting, lying down, whether you're working on a screen, talking on your phone. These are predispositions that you're bound to get caught in, and it does not help your posture. And maybe, well, brief yoga class is what you need to help shake that up. So let's begin. Uh, in hands to your heart, mountain pose. Ease your breathing in this posture. When you're ready, slowly raise your arms. Inhale. Exhale down to your mat. A full forward fold. If you like, you can hold your ankles to get a bit of a better stretch. Extend your hamstrings and just stretch to the side. You can limber up here. We'll come into half forward fold now. Inhale. Walk back to your palms on your mat and extend into plank. Let's hold our plank for 5 easy breaths just to get acquainted with the position. An inchworm back to your feet. In full forward fold again. Half forward fold. Swan dive back up. Inverted swan dive. Hands to your heart. Alright. Maybe feeling a little bit more limber now than when we started. Let's stretch our feet to about 6 inches wider than shoulder width. Extend your arms out. Place your left hand behind your head as a support and see if you can use your head and upper body to stretch the back of your left side. Pinching sides. This is not exactly a yoga pose, but it still helps me limber up those back muscles for like downward facing dog and the other postures. Alright, let's meet at the back of our mat again. Arms up. Exhale down. Back walking to plank. Deep inhale and exhale. Now let's come and meet at our first downward facing dog for this class. This really, more than my hamstrings, helps me stretch my hips. You can take your right arm and hold the back of your left if you find that helps you. Change sides. And let's come back to downward facing dog. Walk out your heels. Give them a good stretch. And come onto your toes and let us wave back into plank position and into our first chaturanga. And upward facing dog, or you can hold in cobra if that's hard. Keeping your feet close, you can try lifting your knees off the mat if you're comfortable. And onto our hands and knees. Let us rest for a moment in child's pose. Back up onto your hands and knees. Let's begin moving our spine a little more in cat and cow. Inhale into cow. Exhale into cat. Let the rhythm of your breath guide you here. If you'd like, you can add some extra movements. You can rotate your hip as you go down and arch your back as you come up. It's like the same movement, but with a rotation of the hips on the way down and up. It helps cultivate a little extra mobility. If you're trying this variation, you can reverse the side in which you turn. Alright, let's stretch our arms out a little, about a foot ahead of our shoulders, and reach with your right arm up and thread it between your left knee and left arm. You can rest your head on the mat. You can keep your palm flat on the ground, or you can make a hammer fist. Face your knuckles away. Stretch out the shoulder, the back of it. Right, let's change sides. Left arm up. Thread the needle. Remember to stretch out the back of the shoulder. While doing this movement, it helps to keep the shoulders packed, which means in their sockets as opposed to being extended out. It gives the joint a better stretch. From here, let's start working on our back muscles a little more. Extend your left leg back. You can still keep your toes on the mat now and your right arm forward. If this is comfortable, you can take your foot off the mat and hold both limbs in the air. Try and breathe easily in this posture. You can add a little movement, moving your left leg and arm to the sides, as you can see in the video. Return to the starting position and extend your right leg forward and your left arm. Adding some gentle movement, your left arm to the left and right leg to the right if this posture is easy. Helps limber the shoulder girdle and the hips. Rest for a moment in child's pose. Deep breath here. And let's come back to downward facing dog. Center your left foot and raise the right leg up. Now come forward into a semi-crunch. Raise it back again. Let's do this a few times. And 5. Bend your right knee and stack your hips. Now you can flip your three-legged dog into wild thing. Remember to raise your hips when you do this. Keep your arm firmly beneath you and extend into the pose. Breathe easily. Let's come back. Downward facing dog. Alright, same sequence on the other side. Center your right foot, raise your left leg upwards, and we will come into 5 crunches. Extend the foot back, stack your hips with your left knee bent, and flip your dog into wild thing. hips raised, arms extended. Let's come back. Downward facing dog. Small vinyasa, plank, chaturanga. Upward facing dog. You can look behind on the left. This actually does stretch your lower back. And to the right. And let's sit in a moment in Vajrasana. Clasp your arms behind your back. Bend forward. Flexing your upper back muscles to keep your shoulders together. Breathe here. Let's come up again. Back into all fours. Downward facing dog. And back into forward fold. You can use this opportunity to do any small stretches or movements that you want. Anything that would help you feel better. When you're ready, come back up, half forward fold, straight back up into mountain pose. A more conventional variation to the side stretches that we did in the beginning of the class is to do the same movements with the hands joint overhead. You would find that this also serves the same purpose. It may even engage the core a little more. But I find that it stretches the lats a little less. Just a variation, your preference ultimately. Alright, let's get into our standing postures. We will begin with tree. Raise your right leg onto your left. For a few easy breaths. If this is comfortable for you, you can try extending your right leg forward and holding onto the toes. Stretch it to the side. We can get into this posture by taking the leg to the front first if required. I find it challenging, so I'm going to stick with a simpler variation today. If you'd like to work on your balance, you can try closing your eyes. This does make it harder. Alright, limbs down. Let's slowly switch sides. I'm going to try getting into what we did on the right in the other way that I mentioned, taking the left foot forward first. This does put a greater emphasis of stretch in the hamstring. When you take the left leg to the left outside, then the stretch is a little more in your hips. This to me are the chief differences. And let's sit back now into our chair, arms extended forward, hips back and down, knees nice and supple, in an upright posture. Breathe here. Slowly bring your arms to your chest and rest your right elbow on your left knee and twist to the side. We will shift the twisted seat onto the right. And come back up. Into forward fold. Half forward fold again. Swan, reverse swan dive back up and bend backwards, extending your lower back. This has been one of my longer classes so far. I do admit this is probably the second video recording that I've been making. But allow me to finish off with a few lunges prior to winding up the practice. From your standing position, bring your left foot back into a lunge. And from here, we will raise our arms and lower our left knee down. Repeating just this movement, the lunge with the arms coming up, 5 times. Breathing here is something that I'd like to get better at. And folding across the front leg. Into a triangle. Meet your legs and move the right back into the lunges. coming again into our fold. Bring your feet together, come back in half forward fold and all the way up. Traditionally, vinyasa practices tend to have a lot more chaturangas, which is basically your push-up and coming again into upward facing dog and downward facing dog. I've tried to keep that to a minimal in this class because people tend to have really rounded shoulders when they sit in front of screens, and I believe that's a large number of you during the COVID crisis that we've been through. In any case, let's come back onto our haunches from now into Malasana. Help stretch the lower back. From all the bending and folding we've been doing, twisting to your left if it's comfortable. And to your right. And coming back into seated. It's always good to include some abdominal exercises, like direct abdominal exercises, into our yoga practice, and we will come into a high boat, knees bent, keeping the spine straight, balancing upon our sit bones. Coming into low boat if it's possible for you today. And placing our feet back onto the mat. For those of you who would like to try it, we will come into shoulder stand. For those of you who would prefer, we will stay in bridge for the next posture. With your heels slightly wider than hip width, and your back flat on the ground, push with your legs and raise your hips. Keep your knees roughly parallel, and you can start wiggling your shoulders back underneath yourself to create a little bit of extra flexion. And it's fine to just hold this, but if you like, you can move your hands underneath your hips and gently raise your legs up and your arms up, or rather your hands up the small of your back into shoulder stand. Breathe here. You can stretch your hands onto the mat and come into plow, keeping your shoulders close to each other and stretching your feet out behind you. breathing easily here. And back into shoulder stand if you tried this variation. And back onto the mat, you can roll down slowly with your feet flat again. Now we are close to the end of our practice for today. A few spinal twists. You can cross your right leg over your left. Move your hips to the side and let your knees fall to your left as you look to your right. Arms outstretched or in cactus position. Gently coming back to neutral. Crossing the left leg over the right and inverting the pose. Looking to your left. Remember to keep both shoulders on the mat to get the most beneficial twist for your hips. Come back to neutral and extend your limbs to the side. Stretch out your legs and your arms into Shavasana. I'd like to thank you for trying out this practice if you were with me. Ease your breathing deep into your belly. Filling up your chest cavity. Breathing through your nose. Relaxing and releasing any tensions that you could have been holding. You can stay here for as long as you'd like, as long as you need to. When you're ready, come on to your left side. Gently push yourself back up into seated. You will fold our hands Bow down to our heart. Namaste. Thank you. I hope you've appreciated some of what we can gain via such a practice in your experience of it. If you do like what it is that you have seen today and would like to perhaps see variations, or if you have any suggestions as to what it is that you would like to come across in your yoga practice, what you believe you could work on, any nagging hindrances, any gaps in your own development in your practice, if you could leave that as a comment below, I would appreciate it. And I hope to hear from you.